well, we got a whole list of things we should do. So let's get through these. Number one, try to use a professional profile picture. Now, this one kind of looks professional, but it's a joke. So like I put this up on all of my profiles recently, but as you can see now, I have more hair up here, and I definitely have more hair up here, down here, so I changed it like 2 days ago. But I had this as my profile picture for a long time, and there are 2 points that I will say about it. One is, even though it's kind of jokey, it looks professional. 2 is, it's me, you know, so you can tell who I am. But I'm also not really looking for a job, so I don't need to have a perfectly professional profile picture. The last thing I'll say, though, is that if I applied at an employer and they saw that and they were like, we're not hiring this person, I probably wouldn't want to work there. So, you know, think about this. Like, a lot of times, the way you go about things, the way that you qualify yourself, there are things that you can do that will disqualify you from certain jobs. But the question you should always ask is, if that's the case, do I want to be there? You know, like, if they're going to be so concerned about one specific thing that I'm pretty happy with, maybe that's not the right fit for me. Again, I'm not really looking for a job, though. So if I were looking for a job, I'd probably put on a tie and get a I'd look, you know, I'd be much more professionally presentable. I guess I mean, I'm wearing jeans today and my pit blue shoes. You look kind of professional, though. I look tech professional, right? Like, yeah. It's not like banking professional. It's a different kind of thing. You can get, like, I could put on a T-shirt and, you know, you put a jacket on in tech and, like, you might as well be the CEO. Yeah. All right, choose a background photo that's not distracting but conveys something about you. So I think mine is still a circuit board, but you know, I think if you see a circuit board, you're like, oh, this person's probably in tech, right? But I made it blurry and pixelated so it's not very distracting. But think about this. The background photo is that thing at the top. It's usually like a big landscape photo. It could be a photograph. It could be something else entirely. It could just be something you created in Microsoft Paint. It doesn't have to be super professional. But do something that conveys something about you. It should speak, you know, again, you're looking to compare yourself against a lot of different people in this process. A lot of recruiters will be looking at a lot of different profiles. This is another way that can help you stand out. Having a good background photo is something that is a little bit engaging, something that is a little bit unique. All right, use an effective headline for your profile. Again, it doesn't have to be your current job title. You don't have to say, well, I'm a student, so I'm going to write that in. You could say, I always loved the word technologist. I always felt like that was a good description because it's like not specific enough to really mean much of anything. It's vague enough to be kind of interesting. What does he do? Well, he's a technologist. Does it mean he's an engineer? Maybe. But I always like that title. But you can kind of play with this a little bit. You can do a lot of different things with this particular point. Seek out endorsements. So this is a really important item. A lot of people, like, I will tell you on LinkedIn, I have looked at my network before and I've said, I can endorse this person. That's in there. You can endorse people for specific skills. You can also write recommendations in LinkedIn. And I've done both of those voluntarily, but most people do not do this. So what I've found, especially when, you know, probably, when did I create my LinkedIn profile? Probably 10, 12, whenever LinkedIn started, 10, 12, 15 years ago. It was a long time ago. I reached out to former bosses. I reached out to people who could endorse me, and I said, can you write me an endorsement in LinkedIn? And this really helps because now you're not just saying I can do these things. You're not just saying I'm a good employee. You're not just saying I'm capable. You're having other people attest to this. And now that, you know, it's not bulletproof, it's not foolproof, it's not something where you can say, well, this one person is going to give me an endorsement and then all of a sudden I am perfect forever. But, you know, it does add to the evidence. It does add to the argument. And that's really what you're doing as part of this, is you're trying to make an argument that you are a pretty outstanding candidate for employment at whatever company you're looking at. So I think that these endorsements and these recommendations can be super helpful for bolstering the status of your profile. Highly recommend it, and again, you probably need to ask for most of these. Most people are not going to just say, hey, let's endorse this person, because, you know, like people don't have that kind of time. But if you ask people, they'll generally help you out here. Use your summary, tell your story. Make it a summary, but use your summary to tell your story. You know, you've got about 3 or 4 sentences that you can keep someone's attention. So talk about, you know, what do you do? What's your background? How did you get to where you are? What do you want to do? But make it succinct. I've worked with students that have a summary that is probably, whatever the maximum limit of characters is, they've hit that maximum limit. Nobody's going to read it. You know, I think that's really important. So make sure that you're telling your story, make sure that you're doing something engaging, but don't overdo it. Similar to your resume, your LinkedIn profile should not be your autobiography. It should really be the details. You know, if you want to talk about something specific, you can get into an interview and you can talk about that for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever the extent of the interview is. But nobody is going to give your resume 45 minutes of attention. Nobody's going to give your LinkedIn profile 45 minutes of attention. You're lucky if you get one. So keep that in mind. You know, use this summary to very succinctly, briefly tell your story. Look at other profiles for inspiration. This is a great idea in whatever it is you're doing. If you're writing a resume, go find a bunch of resumes and get some ideas. If you are working on a new app, go look at a bunch of other apps and get some ideas. If you're working on a new user experience for something you've written, go look at other apps and see what they're doing. Like, go look at other LinkedIn profiles and see how they're written. Find one you like and see what you like about it and try to emulate some of that. They say good artists borrow, right, but great artists steal. I think that applies here. Like if you want to save a lot of time, you can figure out what you like and what is appealing, and you can kind of try to do that same thing. Make a complete profile. As I said, when you're adding those sections, try to add every single section. Try to have something in every section possible. That'll just help your profile look a little bit more complete. It'll make it a little bit more engaging. It'll be the right kind of content. So, I mean, you don't have to just put an empty space. Don't go that far. But I think in general, you want to try to fill in every single possible thing that you can on your profile. Okay, create a custom URL. This is nice too. How many people have LinkedIn profiles on their resume? A couple of people. How many of it is like LinkedIn/in/17 characters, and then like nobody's going to enter that. And the reality is that sometimes people print resumes out. Sometimes in certain situations they'll get a paper copy of the resume, and then if they want to go look at any of these links, they have to type them in. So having something in your custom URL that is easy to enter and easy to parse, that's going to make a lot of difference. And you know, it used to be you had to guess at what all sorts of various search engines were doing, but I think that nowadays that URL, how that URL is formatted, it actually makes it more discoverable in searches as well. So I would highly suggest getting a custom URL that probably has your name. Maybe it has your name and a keyword, like what is, you know, maybe it's your name, technologist, right? You know, you can kind of throw that out there. All right. Indicate that you're looking for jobs. This is important. You know, that little, I always thought this was kind of a hokey feature on LinkedIn where they have that like open to work little banner they put on your profile picture. Evidently, that is a good signal. People use that, you know, so take a look at the indicate that you're open to work. That's a nice feature so that you can indicate that you're open to work. And I think that will help when recruiters see the list of people. They'll see that in your picture. It's a nice distinguishing factor. Focus on accomplishments and impact. This is the same kind of advice you'll hear if you listen to one of my resume workshops. You want to talk about what you have accomplished. Now, a lot of people, when they get on their LinkedIn profile, they'll say that I developed software as part of a team, I followed requirements, I delivered a feature. And that is the most boring way you could describe what it is you do in the entire universe. Nobody gets hired for job descriptions. It's not exciting. But if you talk about the accomplishments and the impact and the outcomes that you actually had in that role, you're going to do a lot better. It's just going to sound better. It's going to sell better. You're going to sound like somebody who gets things done. Now, if I want to hire somebody, I'd much rather hire somebody who gets things done than somebody who shows up to do a job. You know, those are two very different impressions that you can give. So if you focus on accomplishments and impact, and they don't have to be huge. They don't have to be like I grew revenue by $7 million. Nobody, like, it doesn't have to be like that. But you could say I launched a feature that was used by a team of 300 salespeople. Like that's a nice quantitative item. It doesn't necessarily say that you made any money or anything, but it got users, and that's actually pretty valuable. A lot of things that we do just sort of go nowhere. So being able to say that there was an outcome really frames your work much differently. All right. Include a link to your LinkedIn profile on your resume. We kind of talked about that. If you don't have a link on your LinkedIn, link to your LinkedIn on your resume, make sure you put a link to your LinkedIn in your resume. Just because it's a way for people to reach you, it's a way for people to contact you. Some people prefer, you know, like the reality is, 25 years ago, you might put your address on your resume because people might mail you a letter. But modes of communication change. You want to have different modes of communication. A lot of people don't like to put their phone number on their resume, but you know, if you have a phone number, you have an email address, you have a LinkedIn profile, now people have multiple ways that they can reach out to you. And some people just have a preference. Now recruiters generally will reach out to you any way that they can, but I think that sometimes you're going to land somewhere. It just might be nice to be able to have those options. So a LinkedIn profile is a great way for someone to reach out to you, to connect to you, to send you messages, and to learn more about the things that you've done. This is especially useful if some of the places you've worked are a little bit more obscure, because like on my resume, the first couple of places that I worked were just probably nobody that I was applying to had ever heard of them. But if they go to my LinkedIn profile, they can click on the companies, they can see more information about them, they can see how big those companies were, they can go to the company's website. So there's a lot more information that they can get from your LinkedIn profile than they can get from your resume, even if they display approximately the same content. All right. Make sure you can be seen. Post content. Just throw stuff out there. Share news stories. There's like 100 different services out there that will give you a bunch of relevant news stories and allow you to just post them on LinkedIn with pretty much a single click. I think Crowdfire is one of these services. So now you're engaging. Even if the content is not great, even if it's just something you're putting out there, sharing once or twice a week, it puts your name out there. Commenting on people's posts, put your name out there. It adds to this visibility. And LinkedIn is a professional network, but it is still a social network. And if you want to be discoverable, search is a great way, but I think people finding you organically, like if somebody posts something and you post a comment or you add something insightful to it, now people will click on your profile, and those views can help. So I've found, LinkedIn will send you this email that says how many people have viewed your profile. If you go out to LinkedIn, if you make it a point to spend 15 minutes on LinkedIn every single day for a week, and you make it a point to comment on things and add your insight and make a post, you'll find that your views, your profile views will shoot up. They'll be so much higher just through 15 minutes of an engagement a day, and that can be really helpful when you are trying to find a job. Also share posts. People love when you do that. People love you for sharing their posts. A lot of times you'll see something out there like somebody's looking for something or they have an event or something. Sharing those posts will really help you. They'll build up some social capital, and that's nice to have. All right, look at interactions, and meetups is an opportunity to connect. So LinkedIn is this great website. It lives out there on the internet where lots of people connect virtually, but there are these like physical things that happen where you come to a meeting and you see other people, and a lot of these are advertised on LinkedIn. So there are lots of user groups, there are lots of tech meetups, and all of these are opportunities for you to go out and connect to other people. So that can be a really useful thing to be able to do. Just find what's out there, plug into some of these groups, and they're going to have these. There was a Java users group in Pittsburgh that met like once every other week for years. I don't know if it's still out there or not, but there are a lot of these different groups that you can use, and you can get in touch with people, and you can meet them face to face, and then you can connect with them on LinkedIn.